Hello there, this is Joel from Jonesy's, and this is part 2 of the 1982 Monstaliner Midnight Blue application, the DIY application of the roll-on and or spray-on bed liner. So, in the first part you guys saw us get it prepped, get the primer sprayed on it, the 2 coats of the epoxy primer to seal all the bare metal. Now we've waited approximately an hour, and we're going to go over to the paint bench, and I'm going to show you guys how you actually mix up the Monstaliner with the tints and the catalyst in order for it to be ready to be sprayed on. So we'll move over to the bench and we'll start the mixing process. So after we called up Monstaliner, they sent us over a 2-gallon kit of their Monsta Shades Midnight Special. That's a dark blue. Go to their website and request color samples. They'll send you guys out some color samples, and as you can choose the correct color for you. In addition, we asked them to include a couple of rollers for us so we can do some touch-up if we need to. Full set of instructions, as well as since we are going to be spraying it on with our Schutz gun, I asked them to send us a couple cans so that we can load the product up into our gun. So the way this process works is you take part A, which is the majority of the product, take part A, and we're going to immediately mix in the color concentrate into the gallon. We're going to mix up 1 gallon first, see how far that gets us, and then adjust accordingly. So after we take part A, mix it with part of the shades for the Midnight Special. We're then going to shake it really well, stir it really well, and then after that, once we're ready, we're going to go ahead and mix in part B and shake it again. And the part A and the part B are what cause it to actually cure and kick off. So that's the gist of it. If you don't have a paint shaker, Monstaliner also sends some drill-driven mixing paddles, which actually work really well. So I would recommend that if you guys are thinking about doing this on your project, give them a call, go to their website, see all of the different uses and the colors that they have available, and then read through their instructions first. So cure times change accordingly to temperature. In our current temperature, we're going to have approximately an hour-ish between coats, because it's pretty warm and it's pretty muggy out here. So we're going to spray on approximately 3 coats, but that'll kind of depend on how things cover and how things look. So we're going to go ahead and mix things up right now and get it loaded up into the gun and start spraying. There's our Midnight Special Blue. We're going to go ahead and dump it all in there. Take a stir stick here and try and scrape as much. We're going to pour a couple ounces into this can. Press the lid back on. Here you can see it's much thinner. Dump that in. Now there still is some color in there, but we're not going to worry about it. It's going to be close enough. Mix this a little bit. This is where you would use the power paddle on the drill to mix this all together. And so it's important to take part A, which is the bulk of your material, and get it the correct color before you add the catalyst. Now we're going to pop the lid back on this can. Seal up the lid nice and tight, and we're going to go take it over to our paint shaker and we're going to... Okay, so we went ahead and shook this. We got really good color distribution. And now it's time for us to mix in our catalyst. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to take this bag, okay, and we're actually going to do all of our mixing of our catalyst in this bag, and you just want to make sure that your bag doesn't have any holes in it. Okay, so verify that your bag is capable of holding more than a gallon of product, and it doesn't have any holes in it. Okay, so we've got our bag. I'm going to take this just like this. All right. Hold it tight and dump it all the way over into our bag. And take all your catalyst and dump all your catalyst in there. Okay, so take your heavy bag like so. Prop it up there so it's not gonna, hopefully not gonna fall over. Okay, and we're going to take this, and we're going to scrape all the sides. And when you're scraping the sides, this is a good indication as to whether you got all of your color mixed in. Now obviously it'd be a big mess if this bag wasn't any good, so use a heavy-duty bag. I know people are going, this guy's crazy for doing this in a bag, but let me tell you, it actually works, and it works really well. Get our Schutz gun can. Okay, so here is our very economical, inexpensive Schutz gun. We have a regulator on it. This is how you're going to set your texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to load our product into our Schutz gun. We're going to put it on there, screw that on, and then we're ready to go. So in the paint booth, we have a little test panel set up, and we're going to adjust our texture that we're getting out of the gun on that test panel. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a little break. We're going to let this sit for about 30 minutes to let it kind of sit there and bond together. Okay, then we're going to mix it a little bit more, and then after that, we're going to load it into our Schutz gun, go into the booth, and start spraying. Okay, here we are in the booth. We just hung some masking paper on the side of the booth. We've got our gun right here set up. The instructions say that came with the Monstaliner kit, you want between 50 and 100 psi at your gun. And I'm going to caution you, this is going to use a lot of air. So make sure that if you're going to try and spray this at home, you have a suitable air compressor. So anyway, we're going to test out our patterns up here. I have it set at approximately 70 psi static, and what static means is I have it set at the regulator at 70 psi. It's going to drop down when we're actually spraying. So we're going to use 70 as kind of our benchmark for the texture. You're going to want to step back approximately 18 inches away from the material, okay? And so we're just going to do a couple little spray outs to see how much material is going and what kind of pattern we're getting. Alright, so you can see if you come up close here, you can see we have pretty good coverage, and it covers very quickly. You do not want to put any more material on than that. I would say you want to go really light. And the reason you want to go light is if you go any more material like that, you're going to have sags. Not the end of the world if you have sags, because you can just go back, get one of the little rollers before it all cures off, and you can roll it. So I'd say 70 psi is pretty darn good. Let's go ahead and we're going to crank it up just so that we can see what else happens. This is about 90, okay? So 90 psi. Much finer texture. You can see the splots. This is bigger pieces, much finer pieces. I feel like I've got a little bit more control over how much material is actually coming out of the gun. So I think for our first coat, a little bit higher PSI is going to be better. So we're going to leave it at the little bit higher, and then on our second coat we're going to knock it down. Okay? So then after that, the way this is going to happen is that we are going to do the door jambs, and that's called cutting in. So we're going to cut in all of the door jambs on the truck, the fuel door, all the stuff that is on the inside, edges around the hood, inside the engine compartment. We're going to cut those in first. So we're going to get one good coat of coverage on those very first. Then we're going to close the doors, close the fuel, and then we're going to go for a very even pattern around the outside. Okay, so the texture, your end texture isn't actually going to happen until you're at coat 2, maybe coat 3. So right now, the goal here is to get good coverage, good even coverage, get familiar with your gun, and make sure that everything is set up for success. After you get the first coat sprayed, we're going to let it flash off, and we're going to let it flash off until it is tacky. So it's nice and sticky so that it'll hold that next coat when we go to spray the next coat. So I'm going to get suited up, and we're going to go ahead and get spraying. So we just finished up our first coat, and we let it cure for just about an hour, and you can see we've got pretty darn good coverage so far. We did spray a little light, so if you look in certain spots, you can see that we don't have complete and total coverage yet, which is fine because you want to go easy on the first coat. The other thing you can do is you can check and see if it's still tacky. And you see how I pushed on that, and it left my fingerprint, so it's still nice and sticky. So that's great. We're going to go ahead and mix up half of the other gallon because we haven't. We're not going to need all of it, and it would be nice to have some extra that has not been catalyzed if down the road we need to do a little bit more touch-up. So we're going to go ahead and mix up the half of the second gallon. And it's looking like for this project we're going to be able to get by with just 1.5 gallons, and then we'll have a half a gallon left over in case we need to redo something or do some touch-up or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and get everything mixed up and spray the second and final coat. We just shut off the paint booth, spraying our third coat. The third coat is basically just like the texture coat. You can see it just evens everything out. Now, while everything is still fresh and green, we're going to go ahead and remove all of the masking. When you peel the masking off, you want to try and peel it off at a 90-degree angle so that it doesn't try and lift any of the material. You also want to make sure that you peel it off as soon as you can so that it doesn't harden and doesn't flake. So we're going to definitely get all the masking pulled off of this truck and then let it cure for at least 24 hours before you start putting any of the door handles, mirrors, any of that stuff back on. So as you can see, it's sprayed out really nice. It's a great texture. And this is much improved over what the truck had. Going with this type of material actually is a good choice for these old trucks because they don't have to be perfect. You can get them done quickly and you don't spend an arm and a leg on finishes for it. So